Alyssa Thomas served her one game. The Mercury coach is on record swinging back at the league. And now Stephanie White's got to draw up a counter on a whiteboard. If you're just joining, here's the reset. Indiana's player safety story has been running on two tracks: physical defense around Caitlin Clark on the floor and off-court security concerns with Fever players. The flashpoint was the Fever-Mercury game, where Alyssa Thomas made contact with Clark's throat, which drew a WNBA suspension, while team president Kelly Krauskopf has separately been hammering the organization's focus on player safety.
This is the Indiana Fever Daily Podcast. Today, Nate Tibbetts goes public. A one-game suspension gets litigated from two sidelines, and the step back asks what White actually draws up next. Let's start with the coach who decided to talk. Here's Aaron Ferguson at Indianapolis Star.
Thomas was given a flagrant 2 foul by the league after an investigation into her having a closed fist on Caitlin Clark's throat in the aftermath of a loose ball scramble. Clark later left the game due to a back injury and did not return, and she also is out for the Indiana Fever game Saturday against the Los Angeles Sparks.
So the Fever player safety thing took a turn. Nate Tibbetts goes to the podium in Toronto and reads a prepared statement defending Alyssa Thomas. Then says the league's investigation was not a thorough investigation.
Reading from a prepared statement is the tell there, Joey. Phoenix didn't just stumble into an emotional pregame answer. They sat down and decided to fight the flagrant 2 in public.
And the language the league used was specific: recklessly making contact with her fist to the throat area. Tibbetts' whole counter is, AT's not cheap. Okay, but that's a character witness, not a defense of the play.
Right. Nobody investigated whether Thomas is a good competitor. They investigated a closed fist on a throat. Those are different questions, and Tibbetts is answering the easy one.
Here's where I'll actually grant him something, though. One game. Clark's now listed out Saturday against the Sparks with a back injury. White went scorched earth post-game, and the discipline is a single game? If Tibbetts thinks the process was thin, fans who wanted more than one game think the exact same thing.
So both sidelines are unhappy with the league. That's usually a sign the league landed somewhere defensible, or somewhere nobody bothered to explain.
If defenses are going to keep top-locking Clark off the ball and daring officials to call the contact, what can Stephanie White actually draw up to take some of that pressure off? And how much does the answer run through Boston, Mitchell, and the screeners?
This is the chess match for the Fever right now, and White's been nudging toward an answer since preseason. Per SI, Indiana used what the coaching staff called a creative role reversal in that preseason finale against Nigeria, with Boston handling the ball up top, while Clark and Mitchell ran off screens as cutters and spacers instead of initiators. Now the read changes. If a defender top-locks Clark, she has to chase her through traffic set by a 6'4" center. Lose her for even half a step, and it's a Caitlin Clark catch-and-shoot look. The off-ball shift wasn't just a preseason toy either. USA Today reported back in May that Indiana's plan was to protect Clark by moving her off the ball more often, partly to manage her physically after injuries limited her to 13 games in 2025. The catch, as Sporting News has laid out, is that the rest of the offense still has to function when Clark is being denied. And right now, the Fever haven't consistently shown they can punish teams through Boston's postgame or Mitchell's downhill attacks when Clark is the decoy. White has declared Clark the team's top offensive option, per Yahoo Sports, but the counters only matter if Boston and Mitchell are credible enough threats that defenses can't just commit a second body to the Clark denial.
So if Boston is the hinge both ways, the roll threat when Clark has the ball handler when she doesn't, does White trust that package enough to run it in crunch time, or does she default back to Clark carrying it?
That's where the rotation piece matters. SI has noted that White sometimes pulls Clark, along with Boston and Lexi Hall, early in games, even when Indiana has momentum, and that makes it harder for these counters to become readable and automatic. Then there's the challenge usage. SI also flagged that White isn't using her coach's challenges to protect Clark from foul trouble, which hurts even more when Clark is already absorbing contact off the ball. Until the Boston as initiator package gets real crunch time reps, and until White shows she'll spend a challenge to keep Clark on the floor, defenses don't have much reason to stop gambling on the denial.
If you like starting your day with the biggest sports storylines, try World Cup Morning, a 2026 FIFA World Cup daily recap with results, standings, storylines, and the arguments you'll have all day. Find it wherever you listen to podcasts. You'll find links to every story we mentioned today in the show notes, if you want to spend a little more time with anything that caught your ear. That's it for Indiana Fever Daily Podcast today. This is a Lantern Podcast.